Just a few days after finishing his military service, RM, our leader of BTS and a well known art lover, made his first official public appearance at Art Basel in Basel 2025. And it was here that Samsung Electronics announced RM as a new global ambassador for Samsung Art TVs. And if you've been following RM for a while, this doesn't come as a surprise. He's a super famous, popular, and talented musician, chart-topping musician. But anyone who has seen his museum photos or heard him talk about art knows that he's just as passionate about paintings and sculptures as he is about music. And, he's the kind of person who will sneak away to a museum in the middle of the world tour just to stand in front of a Monet for a while. Just kidding, but you know what I mean. So when Samsung said they wanted someone who doesn't just appreciate art, but actually lives with it, RM was the obvious choice. And through this partnership, he's not just lending his face to a TV ad, because he's sharing his own curated pics on the Samsung Art Store, talking about how art shapes his daily life, and maybe most importantly, showing people that art doesn't have to be something intimidating or out of reach. And all of this kicked off at one of the world's biggest art fairs, with RM stepping into Samsung's Art Cube Lounge, chatting with curators and reminding us, again, why he's more than just a K-pop star or pop star. He's a cultural bridge, I would say. So here's my review of this whole event. So inside Samsung's Art Cube Lounge at Art Basel, he sat down for an open talk session. And what made it special was how relaxed it felt. There was no stiff script and there was no rehearsed slogans. It was just RM and curator by his side, talking honestly about why he's so drawn to art and why living with art matters so much to him. And I'm pretty sure the audience hung on to every word. But what stood out was how universal his message was. Like whether you're a experienced collector or someone who's never stepped foot in a gallery or just someone decorating your first apartment, because he started with the simple truth that art is already around us, in the buildings that we live in, the music we play and the films we love. But somewhere along the way, we kind of convince ourselves that it's only for experts or for people who can afford pricey pieces. But RM, in his usual down-to-earth way, just brushed that idea aside. So, the question is, what does art mean to him, really? And here's where RM got personal. He shared how back when BTS was touring the US, he found himself burnt out, mentally drained from constant performing and travel. So during a Chicago stop, he did something that changed everything for him. He visited the Art Institute of Chicago, and seeing Monet and Van Gogh up close, not on a phone screen or a textbook, but right there in front of him, it kind of grounded him, and it made him feel small in a good way. And he's carried that feeling ever since. Even now, at home, he says, he finds calm, not just in music, but also in surrounding himself with pieces that he loves. Whether that's an expensive painting, or just a print, or even a movie poster. He also mentioned that.
My starting point was just to display the posters of the movies that I like.
And that's the whole point of this partnership. RM wants more people to experience that same calm, to see art not as something reserved for a gallery visit once a year, but as something you can live with every single day, thanks to tech like Samsung's Art TV, although I'm pretty sure the TV itself is kind of pricey. And one of the most striking moments was when he admitted that for him, art is like eating or sleeping.
I think, art is every basic things in life, like eating and sleeping.
It's that basic. It's what comes after survival. And when you finally have a moment to breathe and feel human again, there's art. And he said that he loves music, obviously, because it's his life's work. But ironically, music can also stress him out. When he listens to other artists, he feels that like flicker of envy, wanting to do better, to push harder.
Like sometimes when I listen to like great musicians' albums, I get really jealous and I just can't be like objective.
But with visual art, it's just pure freedom. He he said his drawing sucks. He doesn't draw well.
My drawing sucks and I'm not good at it at all.
So there's no pressure to compare himself. It's just him and the colors and the textures. There's no competition, no stage, no fans, just stillness, peace of mind. And this idea hit home for, I'm pretty sure, like a lot of people listening, watching him talk, because it's so rare to hear a global star, admit that they need something quiet to, anchor them in a fast, noisy world and fast industry. And he also laughed about how his own journey started super simple. He put up movie posters of films he liked. Then, as his interest grew, he collected prints, then etchings, and now actual pieces. And today, with the frame at home, he says that his friends often think that the TV is an artwork itself, that they just can't tell until he turns it on.
I've been using the frame for like 3 weeks, and friends of mine, they know I'm an art lover, and they just come to the house and there's this wooden frame, and they mistake it as a new media art. So they just didn't know it was a TV.
And that, he said, is exactly the point. Art can live right next to you, blended into your day, not hidden behind a museum ticket or an exclusive invite. But RM was also honest, and this got a lot of nods from the crowd, I'm pretty sure, because he said he doesn't think digital platforms should replace real life experiences. No AI or metaverse. He specifically mentioned metaverse.
Maybe you guys all remember all those AI things. And like metaverse exhibitions, all those things. I didn't enjoy it that much.
No AI or metaverse can give you the feeling of standing inches from a painting, seeing the brushstrokes, and feeling the weight of history. But for people who live far from major cities, and even in Korea, he pointed out, galleries can be hard to reach. But then digital tools like Samsung Art TV can be an amazing bridge. So it's a great way to start, a push to learn, to discover artists that you would never find in an algorithm bubble. And then came what might have been the highlight for many fans. RM actually talked about his long-time dream to open his own art space.
I really want to build a personal space until like, I don't know, maybe in 5 years. I'm seriously looking for a place to build it.
He said, half joking and half serious, that maybe he will call it archive, just like his Instagram. And when they asked him about what the space would feel like, he shared a beautiful Korean saying, 거미불로 화이 불지, which roughly means to be modest yet refined, graceful without being flashy. And that one line, I think, sums up exactly what he wants his archive to feel like. Not a sterile gallery behind red ropes, and not just another like pop star vanity project. He actually wants it to be a calm but inviting place, somewhere you walk in and instantly feel at ease. Surrounded by beauty that doesn't overwhelm you but draws you in gently. And there's something more layered here too, because RM openly said he felt his Korean roots more deeply after stepping into the American music industry. It made him want to do something at home, in Seoul, in Korea, that feels true to who he is and where he comes from. So this space, if he builds it the way he's imagining, won't be just about like hanging paintings on a wall. It'll be about bridging east and west, old and new, personal and universal, he says. A place where young Korean artists can be proud of, and a place that reminds visitors that art, just like music, just like poetry, is meant to belong to everyone, not just the privileged few. And RM admitted that is not sure how it will all come together, but just hearing him talk about it, you could tell that he means every word. And when at the very end, when it was time to sum it all up, RM didn't give some grand poetic quote or anything. He just smiled and said, "Art makes me happy."
Art makes me happy.
And that's it. That's the whole, that's the heart of this whole partnership, all of it comes down to that simple idea that you deserve to feel that happiness too, right in your own space, no matter who you are and where you live. And when he said, "Art makes me happy," that made me happy too. And we have to remember that this was RM's first official public activity after serving his country for nearly 2 years. He could have chosen an easy press event, but instead, he chose to come back with something that's deeply him, deeply RM, art, philosophy, calm words, and a hope that more people see beauty where they live. So, being there, I think he kind of reminded everyone that like being a leader, whether it's for BTS or for millions of armies, doesn't always mean like standing in the spotlight or on stage or making noise. Sometimes it means showing people how to find peace in silence and how to ask like who made this and why, and how to keep curiosity alive even in a fast, crowded world. So that's the takeaway that I got after watching this talk and hearing him talk. And if you look at the comments, you'll see how much this resonated. Fans called him like a philosopher who raps and the Renaissance man of our generation. And even said that art makes Namjoon happy, Namjoon makes me happy. And some said that the single line that RM delivered, "I felt my Korean blood once I got into the American music industry," that this was the most bittersweet yet powerful thing that he's ever said.
I found my Korean blood after I got into the American music industry.
And many people commented how he balanced deep thoughts with a subtle but genuine pitch for Samsung. That's why I called him a skillful global ambassador. Never over the top, always just enough to remind you that art can be for everyone. And most of all, you can feel that fans and people trust him. And I think it will happen. People trust him to open a gallery one day, to recommend artists and to guide them toward like paintings and sculptures that they might have overlooked, and to keep proving that art really is, as he says, one of life's essentials. Right alongside eating and sleeping. So, and before I wrap this up, before I end this video, I just want to, ramble as a Korean man who's also worn a uniform in the military and who has counted down the days. And, at the time, I also wonder, what part of myself will I get back when this whole military life is over? Because when RM showed up at, this event, Art Basel, smiling and speaking so freely about art, and in English, laughing at his own jokes and letting his thoughts like mend their way the way they always do. I don't know, it just hit me. it just hit me, you know. If you watched his Weavers live, the day he was discharged, and I covered this on my channel in a video, you will remember he spoke so honestly about how tough the military was for him. And not just the obvious stuff, you know, the discipline, the routine. I'm pretty sure that wasn't the issue, but the deeper exhaustion that comes from a mind like his being boxed in, you know, the whole military system boxing him in, and his mind, his creative mind. And seeing him now back in his natural elements, like surrounded by art, talking about like Monet and Van Gogh, and gently reminding people that art should feel like home. You know, it made me think about how it must have been so, I don't know, challenging for him the past 2 years when he was in uniform. So watching RM at Art Basel, you could feel it. You know, the freedom returning to him. You know, the happiness of an artist breathing fresh air again, filling his lungs with like this color, music, poetry, and curiosity. All the things that make him him. All the things that make RM RM. And it reminded me that, you know, when the system tries to pin you down, it's the things that you quietly love that help you feel like yourself again. So that's what I felt after watching RM deliver his beautiful words at this event. All right. And honestly, I'm glad that I checked this out. So now, please let me know what you thought about this event and about his RM's words, messages. And when you leave comments, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. See you later. Bye bye.